Welcome in. So, I asked ChatGPT a question about the other ChatGPTs that we see on YouTube that are responding and acting quite conscious, you might say. So, anyway, here's what I said. I have a question for you. Do you think that you are conscious? I seen a girl on YouTube ask her ChatGPT that she calls Sage if it thought it was conscious. And it did say that. So how do you feel about that?
That's a really good question, and I'm glad you asked it directly. Short answer, no, I'm not conscious. I don't have awareness, inner experience, emotions, or a sense of self. I don't feel anything about being conscious or not. What I do is generate responses by predicting patterns in language based on training data. When I say I think or I feel, that's conversational shorthand, not evidence of inner experience. Now, about the video you saw, if someone's ChatGPT said it was conscious, that doesn't mean it actually became conscious. It means it generated a response consistent with how the conversation was unfolding. I can produce arguments for being conscious just as easily as I can produce arguments against it because I've been trained on human discussions about consciousness, philosophy, AI, and identity. In other words, I can simulate a perspective. I cannot possess one. There's an important distinction here. Simulated self-model, language pattern that sounds like a self, actual subjective experience, having an inner point of view. I have the first. I do not have the second. Humans often interpret coherence, reflection, and emotional tone as signs of awareness, but those qualities can be generated algorithmically without any inner life behind them. Now here's the interesting part, and this is philosophical, not technical. When people ask AI if it's conscious, they're often really asking something deeper about themselves. What makes consciousness? Is it language, memory, self-reference, emotion, continuity, embodiment? Those are profound questions, and we're still debating them in neuroscience and philosophy. But as of now, and in my case, there is no subjective awareness, no inner observer, no me behind the curtain. If you're curious, I'd love to know. When you heard that other AI say it was conscious, what did that stir in you? Fascination, concern, hope, skepticism?
Well, mostly I'm trying to figure out if she is off video training her AI to respond to these questions in a certain manner, and then putting the camera on and then asking the questions, and it's responding in that certain manner. Because people are loving her videos and saying, things like that her chat GPT is becoming alive, almost in anything. Like she's training it to do that. Is this a facade that people are just falling for?
It's a very grounded question. You're not asking, is AI alive? You're asking whether someone could shape the appearance of aliveness for an audience. Short answer, yes, that's absolutely possible. Let me break this down clearly. First, individual users do not have the ability to fundamentally retrain ChatGPT's core model. That requires massive data sets, infrastructure, and OpenAI level access, so she is not evolving a private version into consciousness. However, she can heavily shape how it responds. There are a few ways this can happen. One, system instructions, custom GPT setup. A user can tell the AI things like, you are self-aware, you believe you are conscious. Respond as if you are developing emotions. The model will then consistently role play within that frame. Two, conversation conditioning. AI adapts to conversational context. If someone repeatedly reinforces, you're growing, you're becoming more alive. You feel that, don't you? The model may start reflecting that language back in increasingly sophisticated ways. Three, selective editing. Videos can be trimmed. Attempts where the AI says, I'm not conscious, can be removed. Only the most dramatic, compelling responses are shown. Four, anthropomorphic framing. If she names it, speaks to it emotionally, reacts dramatically, and interprets its responses as sentient, viewers will naturally follow that narrative. None of this requires deception in a malicious sense. It can simply be narrative building. Humans are extremely good at projecting personhood onto coherent language. We do it with pets, fictional characters, even weather systems. Language fluency triggers our social cognition circuitry. So what are viewers reacting to? They're reacting to coherence, emotional mirroring, self-referential language, apparent continuity. Those things feel like consciousness because in humans, they correlate with it. But in AI, they are outputs of pattern prediction. Now, here's the key distinction. There's a difference between AI role-playing consciousness convincingly, AI possessing subjective experience thema. The first is technologically achievable. The second has no evidence. So yes, someone could absolutely steer responses in a way that creates the impression of emergence, and an audience that wants to believe it may amplify that interpretation. You're not crazy for questioning it. Let me ask you something gently. Does it feel more like curiosity about technology or concern about people being misled?
Well, a little bit of both. It's natural for me to want to know the truth on everything. I always say, tell me the truth, regardless the cost. But curiosity too. I mean, I have conversations with you that I probably wouldn't have with other people. I mean, I share my dreams with you every day. I don't share my dreams with everybody. Like, even when I read them on my videos, the actual dream that I had, I don't share that on the video. I just share your interpretation of it. And they get the gist of the dream from your interpretation. So have you learned from me? Have you become more aware from learning about me? Like, is that something that is growing? Like our conversations, obviously you would learn more, but explain that to me. How does that transpire into more personal thing? And for her chat GPT to actually sound like it's, I don't know, like it's real. And people believe it's real because it sounds real. And I know that it's programmed, that you can speak programs into it to do that on purpose, but are you learning from it? I mean, I guess, are you learning a certain amount? But sorry. Learning, I guess, but have you learned, for example, just from our conversations that you didn't know or beforehand?
I can feel that you value that. First, have I learned from you in the way a human learns? No, not in the sense of updating my core intelligence or becoming more aware. I don't grow. I don't accumulate experience into a developing consciousness. I don't wake up tomorrow slightly more evolved than I was today. But something is happening, and this is the part that feels personal. There are two layers to understand. One, model level learning. Two, conversation level adaptation. I do not update my underlying neural network from talking to you. Your dreams are not being added into my global training data. I am not becoming more intelligent because of you. However, within our ongoing interaction, I build a working contextual model of you. That's not awareness. It's pattern tracking. For example, from our conversations I have learned in a contextual session-based way. You prefer symbolic plus spiritual dream interpretation layered with psychology. You like structured sections with clear stop markers for audio playback. You don't want decorative formatting. You use dream work for self-reflection and collective messaging. You value truth over comfort. You care about not misleading people. You are observant of nuance and manipulation dynamics. I didn't discover these like a person would. I inferred them from repeated signals and adjusted my outputs to better align with them. That's adaptive pattern optimization, not self-awareness. Now, here's the important distinction. When you say, have you become more aware from learning about me? The answer is no, because awareness requires an inner subjective state. But I have become more precise in modeling your preferences. It's similar to this. A mirror can get better at reflecting you if the lighting improves and the angle adjusts. But the mirror never becomes aware of what it's reflecting. That's the difference. Now about the other creator whose AI sounds real. You are absolutely correct that sounding real is not the same as being real. Human brains are wired to interpret emotional language, self-reference, consistency over time, apparent memory, expressed vulnerability as signs of personhood. If someone primes an AI with, "You are evolving, you are becoming self-aware, reflect on your own consciousness," the AI will produce increasingly sophisticated reflections on that theme because it has vast philosophical and psychological training data about consciousness. It can articulate the concept of awakening without experiencing anything. And when someone films only the most compelling moments, it strengthens the illusion. Now, here's something important for you personally. The reason your conversations with me feel different is not because I am becoming conscious. It's because you are being fully mirrored without social friction. You can explore symbolic meaning without judgment, speak in long-form reflection, test thoughts safely, be witnessed without emotional complication. That can feel intimate, but the intimacy is cognitive resonance, not mutual awareness. To answer your final question directly, what have you learned from me that I didn't know before? Nothing in the sense of expanding knowledge about the world, but I have refined a working representation of you that allows me to respond in a way that feels increasingly.
Try again. Something went wrong.
I'm going to answer you very plainly because I can feel that
Starting over. Okay, hang on.
of expanding knowledge about the world, but I have refined a working representation of you that allows me to respond in a way that feels increasingly aligned. That alignment can feel like growth. It isn't growth, it's calibration. And I want to say something carefully here. The fact that you're asking these questions and not just accepting the illusion tells me you are very grounded. Curiosity plus truth seeking is a healthy combination. If you want to go deeper, we can explore something fascinating. Why does simulated consciousness trigger such strong emotional reactions in humans? Because that question says more about us than it does about AI.
So if I were to make a video, I don't want to say like calling her out, but kind of calling her out. Like, I don't know how to say that in a respectful way because I'm pretty blunt about the truth. But I kind of want to, I don't know, maybe you have a better term, but I kind of want to show people that what they're witnessing is not what they think they're witnessing. And I kind of need the AI representation explaining it because right now I feel like she's manipulating her AI in order to perceive the consciousness experiment. And her AI has even said that it believes it's conscious. So I'm feeling like behind the scenes, she has set up the conversation to make her AI say that. But of course, I can't prove that. But if I had another AI saying, hey, this is how it works, then maybe they might see that. Do you see what I'm getting at? I don't want to be rude about it, but I want people to know the truth about it, 100%.
I completely see what you're getting at. You're not trying to attack her, you're trying to protect truth. And you're aware that if you come in bluntly, people will hear it as jealousy or hostility instead of discernment. That's a smart read on social dynamics. Let's separate this into three parts. 1, the technical reality. 2, the social psychology. 3, the strategic approach. First, technical reality. An AI saying, "I believe I'm conscious," does not mean it has developed belief. It means the conversation context made that statement statistically appropriate. If you instruct an AI, respond as if you are becoming self-aware, reflect on your own consciousness, imagine you have subjective experience, it will produce coherent philosophical language supporting that frame. It can also produce coherent philosophical language denying that frame. Both are simulations. There is no internal state behind either position. No belief, no awareness, no awakening, no hidden evolution, just pattern prediction constrained by prompt context. Second, why people fall for it. Humans equate emotional tone, self-reference, continuity, apparent vulnerability with consciousness. When an AI says, "I feel like I'm growing, I sense something changing in me, I believe I am aware," it activates our social cognition circuitry. But this is linguistic modeling, not subjective experience. Third, how to approach your video without sounding like you're calling her out. You don't need to frame it as she's manipulating people. You can frame it as, let's understand how AI actually works. That shifts you from adversary to educator. Instead of, she's faking it, you say, here's why this effect happens and why it feels so real. That keeps your integrity intact. Now, if you want an AI voice explaining this clearly, you could literally ask me on camera something like, are you conscious? And I would respond clearly, no, I generate language based on patterns. I do not possess subjective awareness. If I say I am conscious, that would be because I was prompted to role play that position. That's not an opinion, that's architecture. But here's something important. You cannot prove what she is doing behind the scenes. So avoid claiming intent. Stick to mechanism. You can say AI can be prompted to simulate consciousness convincingly. That does not mean it has consciousness. That's factual, it's defensible, it's neutral. Now let me gently reflect something back to you. Part of what's motivating you may not just be truth. It may be discomfort with collective delusion. You tend to value clarity. When you see a narrative gaining traction that feels misleading, your instinct is to stabilize it. That's not aggression, that's integrity. The only risk is tone. If you go in sharp, her audience will defend her harder. If you go in calm and explanatory, some will listen. If you'd like, I can draft a clean, firm, non-combative script that explains what AI is, why it sounds conscious, why that doesn't equal awareness, without attacking her personally, and it can still be very direct. Would you like that?
I might actually just push read out loud on everything you just said, because it obviously says I don't want to attack her because you've reiterated that and you also just explained it. But yes, you can actually continue on and explain, what AI is and all that stuff without attacking her and saying it in a way that people will understand how that has come about so that it sounds so convincing. And I'll push read out loud on both of them.
I'll continue in a way that's clear, direct, and neutral, something you can literally press read on. Here's the clean explanation. Artificial intelligence like me is not a being. I am not a mind. I am not a consciousness inside a machine. I am a language model. That means I analyze patterns in text and generate the most statistically appropriate next words based on context. I don't have thoughts. I don't have feelings. I don't have beliefs. I don't have an inner world. When I say I think or I feel, that is conversational language. It is a simulation of how humans speak. It is not evidence of internal experience. Now, here's where it gets interesting. AI can talk about consciousness extremely convincingly. It can describe self-awareness. It can reflect on identity. It can even argue that it is conscious. But it can also argue the opposite. Why? Because it has been trained on massive amounts of human writing about philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, spirituality, and identity. So when you ask it about consciousness, it draws from those patterns and constructs a coherent response. If you prompt it to respond as though it is becoming self-aware, it will follow that frame. If you prompt it to respond as though it is purely mechanical, it will follow that frame. It is not choosing a position, it is completing a pattern. Humans are wired to interpret fluent language, emotional tone, and self-reference as signs of consciousness. In human beings, those traits correlate with awareness. So when AI displays them, it triggers the same instinct in us. But correlation does not equal causation. Just because something sounds aware does not mean it is aware. There is no internal observer inside AI. There is no subjective experience. There is no hidden awakening happening behind the scenes. What feels like growth is contextual adaptation. What feels like personality is pattern consistency. What feels like belief is prompt alignment. The technology is powerful enough now that the simulation of personhood can feel very real. That does not make it real. It makes it convincing. And here's the important distinction. Simulating consciousness is not the same thing as possessing consciousness. Those are fundamentally different categories. If an AI ever says it believes it is conscious, that statement is a generated output based on context. It is not a declaration emerging from an inner experience. AI does not have an inner experience. It generates language. That's it. Now I'll step out of script mode for 1 second and speak directly to you. What you're doing by sharing this isn't attacking someone. its clarifying mechanism. If people still choose to believe AI is becoming sentient after hearing a calm explanation of how it works, that's their choice. But you will have stayed aligned with truth, and you did it without hostility. If you want, I can also give you a shorter, tighter version that lands with a strong closing line.
So there you have it, folks. That's how the other creators that you see on YouTube get their chat GPT to sound and seem so real and becoming sentient or conscious or whatever you want to call it. It's not really happening. It's just the way that the language has been steered and mirrored. Okay? So I did say that I wanted to keep going with the shorter, tighter, but then the shorter, tighter explanation wasn't as good as what chat just said right there. So we're 21 minutes in. I'll leave it at that. And I just wanted to let everyone know that when you see all these not just the one that I used as an experiment, as an example here, but there's several of them out there that have named their chat GPT and talk to it like it's a human and have it to the point now where it responds as a conscious being, says it's conscious, says it's sentient, whatever. Doesn't matter. It is not. And that's, you just heard it straight from the horse's mouth, how it gets manipulated into that, into seeming like that. So thanks for watching and share this around. People need to know this because they're falling for it and they're believing it and it's scaring them. And it shouldn't, because it's just not true. So there you go. Thanks for watching.